Good morning, Bhante.
Okay. Shatri, today we are going to answer your questions, and we have a couple of minutes.
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, Chatri, you have any question?
Yes, Bhante, actually, I thought it would be helpful to discuss the following thing. What is the right balance between applying effort, atapi, and not struggling too much with the mind when the mind just has trouble concentrating, when it gets distracted? What's the right balance between applying effort and not applying too much effort and straining?
Yes, I think I answered this question last time.
Yeah.
Applied effort, you make effort and not struggle too much, because as you struggle too much, you get very unnecessarily tired. It's, you can see in walking and climbing, children run very fast at the beginning and they get tired towards the end and they cannot finish. Similarly, when we make too much effort at the beginning, we cannot go too far, we lose interest, we cannot continue. Therefore, right effort is the balance of your effort. The way to balance the effort, you have to focus your mind on tranquilizing factors of enlightenment, like faith, like passaddhi, tranquility, and concentration, equanimity. When you focus your mind on them, your effort will not be too much. It'll your mind relatively calms down. But you do not give up your effort. It is called effort to continue your practice. When we try to continue our practice, we have to be wise, we have to have patience, we have to have understanding. With these components, you can balance your effort. Too much effort makes you tired very quickly. Too little effort makes you sleepy. And therefore we have to have patience, understanding, determination, and balancing your effort using tranquility factor of enlightenment, like passaddhi means tranquility, and concentration plus equanimity. You have to remember these things to bring your mind to those mental states. Okay?
Bhante.
Next question.
I don't. Okay. Here's a question from the chat, Bhante.
Uh-huh.
Yesterday, you explained how the arising and ceasing of things in the 10 groups are conditioned in different ways. Please, can you explain this more precisely regarding the 6 external sense bases. Thank you.
Could you read the question again?
Yes. Yesterday you talked about the arising and the ceasing of 10 things in the 10 different groups that were considered in these different ways. So these 10 groups. And the question is to explain this arising and ceasing in regards to the external sense bases, the 6 sense bases.
I see. 6 sense bases like eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Rising means when the eyes come in contact with visual objects, eye consciousness arises. That is rising. Consciousness arises at that moment. It is the rising of eye consciousness. And then similarly, when you hear a sound, depending on the sound and your ear consciousness arises. That is the rising of ear faculty. That is metaphorically called arising of ear faculty, or ear sense. Similarly, nose and smell, when come together, consciousness arises, nose consciousness. Then tongue consciousness, tongue and food and something that we put into the mouth, water and so forth, tongue consciousness arises. At that moment, we become aware of that. Similarly, when we touch something, any tangible thing, then the body and that tangible thing come together, body consciousness arises. When the mind and mind objects meets, when we remember something, that time mind consciousness arises. So in this way, we see the arising of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. Okay, that is internal 6, arising of 6 bases, and we just become aware of that at that moment. To do that, we have to be very attentive, mindful, and also we need very good focus, concentration. When these factors come together, you can see the rising of 6 senses.
Yes.
Let me 6.
Bhante, the person is requesting more specifically to answer about the external sense basis rather than the internal sense basis.
Right. Also same thing. As soon as we open our eyes, visual objects are present to our eyes. At that moment, the visual objects arise. That is external sense base. Similarly, when we focus the mind on a sound, we hear the sound. That moment, external sense base of sound arises. So as soon as these two come together, that moment external sense bases arise when they come together. So that is how we see them arising. That is called samudaya dhamma, upada dhamma, and so forth in Pali, arising nature of any object, visual object, auditory objects and so forth, as they strikes our sense basis, that moment, that particular external sense base arises. That means we have our awareness goes straight away to that particular external object at that moment. And that time we call it, according to Dhamma, becoming aware of the rising of external objects, external sense bases. All the 6 of them like that. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Bhante. Let's see. Next question. What are nimittas? How do they happen and what causes them?
The word nimitta, the sign, is used in concentration, and also in vipassana also we can call nimitta. They are called in vipassana animitta, sunyata animitta apanihita. Nimitta means signs of greed, hatred and delusion, signs. That is in vipassana, what you call sign. Sign of greed, sign of hatred, sign of delusion. In concentration, when you do the concentration practice, samatha meditation, sign is when the mind becomes sharper and sharper and more unified, and then there arises a moment of very fine sensation at the place where the breath touches. In case of breath, I use the breath as an object of meditation. So when your mind is sharp and clean and pure, everything is calm, at that moment the sign of concentration arises. What is the sign of concentration? It is just like little tuft of cotton, rubbing on your nostrils, or very fine feather of a bird, brushing on your tip of your nose or nostrils, or little flame, not burning flame, but flame-like soft object touching your nostrils or nose. Even a flower, petal of flower, very gently, softly touching your nose, or waves of air, touching your nostrils. So it becomes very prominent, very clear, and at that moment you will have even a spark of bright light. Next moment you gain concentration. So that is the sign of gaining concentration in concentration meditation. In vipassana meditation, Buddha called raga nimitta, dosa nimitta, moha nimitta. The sign of greed, raga means clinging, craving, and so forth. Dosa means anger, moha means confusion. And they are not like sign in concentration meditation, nimitta in concentration, nimitta in samadhi. This is different. So these are the 2 types of nimittas. Okay?
Yes, Bhante. There's follow-up questions on what we talked before about the 6 sense bases. So one of the follow-up questions from the previous one is just asking if the external sense base also needs our attention in order to arise.
What internal?
The external sense base, does it also need our attention in order to arise?
Right. Yes. If we don't pay any attention, then even though external objects and external sensory objects exist, we don't know. We don't know. Our awareness must go there to external objects for us to understand that external sense arises. Without our awareness, it doesn't happen. Okay?
So the next question is asking, what is it that we should focus on? Is it the internal sense base per se that we should focus on, or the external sense base? The consciousness. Okay, let me rephrase it. So okay, let me just rephrase the question so I understand it. Is it not the internal sense base per se that we should focus on, nor the external sense base per se, but is it rather the consciousness that joins them together to give rise to contact that we should focus on?
Now, internal senses, sense bases, external sense bases, as soon as they contact, consciousness arises. We see this triple combination. And they don't stay all the time. As soon as they arise, they pass away, and then next moment, again it arises. Next moment, it again arises. So this combination takes place all the time. And so, if you focus mind on the external, then you don't see impermanence of external. When you simply pay attention to the internal, you don't see impermanence there. So you have to see external, internal coming together and consciousness arises. You have to be conscious to become aware of impermanence. So these three, your consciousness must be present when two objects come together to become aware of impermanence. So whenever your mind is not there, when you don't pay attention, even though they come together, consciousness you don't experience, arising and passing, and the contact arising and passing you don't become aware of. So your awareness will be always there, always must be there, for you to become aware of impermanence of rising and falling of external, internal, and consciousness and contact. You see, these are what you call mentality and materiality. In materiality factor, there are contact, feeling, perceptions, volition, consciousness, and attention. Now, as soon as any object strikes our sense basis, external objects can be all material, and when they strike our sense basis, then contact arises, feeling arises, perception arises, attention arises, consciousness arises, all arise together. That is why I mentioned several times it is impossible for you to isolate any of them from the whole operation. They all work together. Only when you are aware, when you are mindful, when you pay attention, then you can see. That is why Buddha said, Manasikara sambhava sabbhe dhamma. Manasikara sambhava. Manasikara means attention. Only when we pay attention, all this will reveal to us. Otherwise, we don't know them. And therefore, attention is absolutely necessary. And remember this, Manasikara sambhava sabbhe dhamma, all dhammas, all phenomena appears only when we pay attention. Otherwise, we don't know them. Okay?
Okay, just one follow-up question on that. Okay, is it okay to say that all the problems arise with contacts and other things do not?
Yeah, all the problems arise from contact. At the same time, all the problems can solve at the contact. When we simply let contact take place, then feeling, perceptions and so forth follow. But if we see the contact is impermanent, then you see feeling, perceptions and so forth are also impermanent. And therefore we have to see impermanent nature of contact. That is why we mentioned yesterday in Dhammanupassana, mindfulness of Dhamma or awareness of Dhamma, Dhamma Anupassana, becoming mindful of mental objects. We say first one is Aniccanupassi asasi sami sikkati, Aniccanupassi pasasi sami sikkati. That means we breathe in, becoming aware of impermanence. We breathe out, becoming aware of impermanence. So then that is first or the last line of the first, the Dhammanupassana tetrad. Dhammanupassana has 4 steps like others. Each step has a pair. Altogether when we decompress, there are 8 of them. One is seeing impermanence, one breathes in. Second, seeing impermanence, one breathes out. Then, Viragaanupassi asasisami sikkati, Viragaanupassi pasasisami sikkati. When one sees impermanence, then one sees not gluing, attaching, clinging to anything. Whatever disappears, you cannot hold on to it, whatever impermanence. So, being aware of non-clinging, you breathe in. Being aware of non-clinging, you breathe out. Then cessation. Once you don't cling to it, it goes away. You don't try to stop it. That is cessation, ceasing, stopping. So being aware of cessation, you breathe in. Being aware of cessation, you breathe out. Then the last is Patinisagganupasya sami sikkati. Patinisagganupasya. Patinisaggan means let it go. Once it is gone, let it go. Don't hanker after it. Don't try to go after that. So seeing that disappearing, going out of the horizon, that is Patinisagga. Being aware of that, you breathe in. Being aware of that, you breathe out. So, when something come in contact, if you are not aware, you continue to let feeling, perceptions and so forth happen. If you are aware of impermanence, you let them happen in that order. There is two orders. One order is encouraging, letting greed, hatred and delusion, feeling, perceptions and so forth to arise and continue. The other order is letting, seeing all of them are impermanent, all of them are non-clinging, all of them are ceasing, all of them are disappearing, and then that is the way to liberate the mind from suffering. So we resort to the second order, the order which brings peace, not the first order. And therefore, even to see that, our awareness must be intact, awareness must be there. And therefore Buddha said, Manasikara Sambhava Sabbhe Dhamma. All the Dhammas. Now I mentioned two streams of Dhamma. One stream is continuation of the path of suffering. Other is discontinuation of the path of suffering. That means leading towards the liberation. So one way is repetition of suffering. Other way is dismantling, disappearing suffering. For both we have to have awareness. Okay?
The next question, Bhante, is more about practice. The person is saying that they followed your advice that you gave last time, and they now meditate with using vibration as an object. They used to do vipassana intensely for several years, and it was fruitful, but then at some point it was not so fruitful anymore. With using the vibration, the person seems to go towards samatha. This seems to be very fitting now. Is it possible that I experience the physical or fine material symptoms of piti, but don't really feel the emotion of joy because I just don't feel like getting agitated, and piti and all these perceptions are something that is not so tranquil. So the person doesn't like to emotionally react on all of that. Can you please comment on this?
Yes. So you are adding another factor to your practice, that is your emotion. Now you have to suspend your emotion temporarily to see the reality. When you experience vibration, vibration is the sign of rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling, sign of impermanence, anicca. So you don't have to worry about it. If you worry, then you have fear, tension, anxiety and so on. But you have to understand this is the nature. The difference is now you are aware of it, other times you are not aware of. When you are not aware of, vibration is going on its own. When you become aware of it, you have fear. For instance, your heart beats all the time. If you keep listening to it all the time, then you may have fear. So you tend to forget. But somebody who wants to practice mindfulness of impermanence would become aware of this vibration of heartbeat, and then become calm, relaxed and peaceful, and then gain insight into the reality of impermanence, or you gain concentration, because you see it repeats itself over and over again. Then mind gets used to it, and mind goes along with this repetition and stay calm, relax, and then you gain concentration. So for both ways, you have to become spiritually mature to accept what is happening, so that you will not have emotional reaction. So that is my advice. It happens to anybody who is has so much attachment to body, attachment to feelings, attachment to perception, attachment to thought, attachment to everything. So as we just finished saying, that when these things happen, let them happen, because this is not a sickness. If it is sickness, then you have to take care of that sickness. This is very natural happening in our body and in our mind. So when both work together, you experience this, and then you accept it and go along with it. Either you gain concentration, or you gain wisdom, development of wisdom, to see impermanence, because everything is impermanent. So that is my advice.
Thank you, Bhante. We have, again, just one more question about contact. It's more checking the person's understanding. So the person is saying that when we stare at something, is it actually a series of eye contacts that are happening one after another in a quick succession? Is that correct understanding? That when you look at something, it's actually a series of eye contacts that are happening, one following the other, very fast.
You don't have to stare something to have eye contact. That would become, your eyes become very tedious and tired, and it will be painful. The moment you open your eyes, objects will thrust into your eyes. Not literally they come and touch, but the very extremely fine contact, it is very difficult to illustrate. We say when the something, when sun rises, when sun's ray light falls on something, we can say the sunlight contact such and such an object. It doesn't mean that sun comes and dash like a volcano, or like meteoroid, or hitting. So when we say eye contact, means as soon as we open our eyes, if there is consciousness, of course when we open our eyes, whatever objects in front of us, and we focus only on one, then consciousness arises of that particular object. There may be many thousands of other objects. We are not conscious of all of them until we focus our mind on that. It is the focus of mind on an object, even in a split second, consciousness arises. It is almost simultaneous, so you cannot break down to time factors or timeline. It happens so quickly. This is what we call contact. Similarly, ear, when we hear a sound, sound will hit the eardrum, sound waves, and inside it vibrates and converts it into a meaning, goes to brain, and it operates there and translates it into various meanings, songs, speech, bird sounds, human sounds, boy sound, girl sound, and so forth and so on. All the varieties are generated in the brain through the brain functioning. But the vibration is there of the sound waves. But that very first sound wave vibrates, we call it ear contact. Similarly, nose contact. All the molecules of various things outside, food, perfume and so forth, they hit our very sensitive part of our eye, our nose, because of the molecular structure, and we smell. As soon as they hit, we feel we have nose contact, tongue contact, body contact, and so forth. It is very, very fine contact between objects and the senses. So when we are aware, we know what is happening. If you are not aware, if you are not paying attention, that consciousness does not arise. For instance, now I am talking, Veronica talking, and you are asking, and she repeats question. If you don't pay any attention to any of these things, my answers or her questions, then you cannot see the combination, and you cannot have ear contact, and you don't know what is happening. So you have to pay attention, you have to be conscious, you have to be aware what is going on. All these things work together. As I saw so quickly, you cannot isolate them. That is the nature of Dhamma. That is the nature of Dhamma. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante. Do you have time for one more question, or do you want to...
Yeah, we can answer one more question because we are...
There is one question that is asking about if you can tell us more about the original power that you mentioned in the early segment of yesterday's Dhamma talk.
Original what?
Power, phala.
Original phala?
Power.
Original power?
Yes.
Yeah. Original power I mentioned when you throw something into the air, say you take a rock and throw it into the air, or vertically or horizontally you throw. So it starts with certain energy, certain power, and it slowly fades, diminish, the power diminish slowly, and then it falls. So at the beginning of that, what you call velocity, is called original power. That goes with spiritual faculties as well. Bala, Indriya Bala. Bala means Saddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. These are Indriya Bala, what you call Pancha Bala. That means they have a strength and they dwindle down, fades away if you do not keep up with them. It is a mental state. What I mentioned as earlier is a physical, throwing rocks and so forth. It's a physical you can so say, velocity, it has a beginning. And when it wears out, it comes to an end. So in between, also you can see changing, and then disappearing. So original power becomes weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker because of the nature of impermanence, and then it comes to an end. So, friends, I think this may be enough for today's answering questions. Now let us do some meditation. Okay. Can you see this? Can you see the screen? Hello?
Yes, Bhante, I'm sharing the screen. Can you see it?
I can see it. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, if you see the screen, let us read our metta recital and do some meditation for a short while. Now, in this meditation, anytime we meditate, we focus our mind, we begin focusing mind on our breath. First, we recite metta. Let that metta be our sort of a back burner. It works at the back of our mind as the basis of peace. That is called mind liberator. Cheto vimutti in Pali. Cheto vimutti. Mind liberator. Mind liberates from hatred, anger, greed, tension, and so forth as we practice metta. And then we focus mind on our breath. And all the components that we discussed, we can find in our breath. Breath has elements, earth, air, water, fire, and so forth. Breath has all the characteristics of impermanence. Breath has the aggregates. Breath is pure. So for many reasons, we use the breath. That is why Buddha gave a sermon on the breath called mindfulness of breathing. All these series of talks that I gave last few weeks are on mindfulness of breathing, and therefore we focus our mind on that. I don't have time to repeat all the instructions. We just read this metta recital and then go to silence and meditate. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long or large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for the whole world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hatred or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here. not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desire for sensual pleasures, one comes never again to birth in the womb. Okay, with this metta thought, let us practice meditation. By means of this meritorious deed, may I never join with the foolish, may I join always with the wise, until the time I attain Bhavana. May the suffering be free from suffering, may the fear-struck be free from fear, may the grieving be free from grief, so too may all beings be. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. With this metta wish, let us end this session. I want to share our metta with everybody and want to send metta to those who are suffering in hospitals, taken care of by very compassionate doctors, nurses and hospital staff. May they recover very quickly and return to normal life and practice Dhamma and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. May all the doctors, nurses and hospital staffs who take care of these people, risking their own life, sacrificing their comfort, out of compassion they practice Dhamma, and may they all liberate from samsaric suffering. May all those who have lost their loved ones, may they be free from their grief and continue their Dhamma practice, liberate from samsaric suffering. May all those who finance various humanitarian projects, all those philanthropists and others who are very compassionately supporting in many ways, practice Dhamma and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. May all those whose categories are not mentioned, may all of you, especially others who are in trouble spots, in war zones, under the pressure, discrimination, and so forth, may they all be well, happy and peaceful, may find solace and comfort, practice Dhamma and attain liberation. With this, I want to end this session. Thank you all for participating and encouraging us to continue this practice. Okay, bye.
Thank you,
Buddha
Bhante.
Saranam Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu,
Thank
sadhu,
you,
sadhu.
Bhante. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante, sadhu, sadhu,
Okay.
sadhu.
Sadhu,
Thank you,
sadhu.
Thank you,
Bhante.
Bhante.
Saranam.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu,
Thank
sadhu.
you, Bhante.